no. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who are watching the live stream of this overview and scrutiny panel meeting via YouTube. Minutes of this meeting will be produced in the usual way, and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on YouTube until such time that the minutes are produced. Please be aware that only audio from the microphones will be captured on the live stream. Therefore, those invited to speak need to ensure their microphones are on when speaking and as close to the speaker as possible. To enable the meeting to run in an orderly manner, can all present keep their microphone off, except when invited to speak? Please ensure that the microphone is turned off when you have finished speaking. I would also like to remind members to make sure their mobile phones are on silent or turned off for the duration of the meeting. And please be aware that the cameras will be on at all times. There is always a risk that we may run into technical problems, and I would ask for your patience if we do. Should this occur, an adjournment will be declared until the fault is addressed and the public broadcast will be paused. Thank you. Now, the first item on the agenda is to appoint a chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel for the 2022-23 municipal year. Can I have a nomination, please, for chairman?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Mason to continue in the post of chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Miscanlon. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. Are there any further nominations? In the absence of any further nominations, I declare that Councillor David Mason has been appointed Chairman of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel for the municipal year.
Thank you very much, everybody, for the faith for yet another year that you've entrusted in me, and thank you for your past support during the previous year. We will move on to item number 2, which is receive apologies for absence, please.
Thank you. We've received apologies from Councillor Cornwell, Councillor Humphrey, Councillor Scolding and Councillor Hewlett. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And item 3 on the agenda, the appointment of Vice Chairman for the municipal year. And I would like to propose from the Chair, Councillor Alex Miscanlon. Could I have a seconder, please?
I will second that.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Are there any other nominations? I declare that, Alex, you have been elected Vice Chairman for the municipal year. Congratulations.
Thank you very
And I
much.
will shake your hand.
Thank you very much for that. And I will support you in any way I can over the next year.
Thank you very much. Item 4 on the agenda, the previous minutes of our meeting on pages 3 to 12. This was the meeting held on Monday, the 9th of May, 2022. Are there any comments or amendments to those minutes, please? Councillor Wicks.
The matter I'll bring up is on the levelling up information that has been requested, namely a comparator with other local authorities and the figures that they have had from the combined authority.
Yeah. I think that's in hand. Is that correct, Amy? Thank you very much. Yes. Any other comments, please? Councillor.
I am concerned that we're still awaiting to hear if the mayor is going to come and visit us, particularly about how he's going to manage on things like the levelling up agenda because of the high rate of vacancies currently within the combined authority.
Yeah, okay, thank you, that's noted. Any more for any more? Councillor Scanlon.
On the same thread with what Councillor Hay has just said, I can say that the skills committee of the officers at the CPCA have suffered no shortages of them. They are still fully manned, so the skills side of it is still operating to the fullest extent. So we are lucky in that respect, but yes, there are some severe deficiencies through the system.
Yep, okay. Thank you. So item 5, to report additional items for consideration, which the chairman deems urgent by virtue of the special circumstances being now specified, and I have none. Item number 6 is members to declare any interest in the local code of conduct in respect of any item to be discussed at this meeting. Are there any pleas to be declared? Item 7, update on previous actions. You do have the notes in front of you from our pre-meeting on the 12th of July. If there are any further comments on those, I'll take them. I'll move on to item number 8 then, which is the progress of corporate priorities, communities. You have notes in front of you, pages 17 to 30. My great pleasure to welcome today to the meeting the leader, Councillor Chris Bowden, Dan Horn, Sam Clark, Phil Hughes, and Steve Count. Most welcome, Steve. Change over hats. Well done. We have a paper on this. Do you wish to make a presentation, anybody, before we go into questions and answers? No. Well done. Okay, I will open this up to the committee if they wish to put forward any questions on this particular item, please.
Would it be appropriate for the officers present to give a brief resume of what the priorities are within their departments?
Yeah, that's a fair question. If one of you would like to answer that.
Thank you, Chairman. So, as the report sets out, there's a focus within the community's portfolio relating to tackling the condition and management of the private rented sector, which has been a priority, I think, for a number of years now, leading on from the member working group that met, I think it was 17, 18, if my memory serves me correct, but I might be wrong on that, which led to the new housing enforcement policy and the new approach to tackling enforcement against landlords who weren't meeting their legal requirements, rather than what was seen to be possibly punishing good landlords who, through new types of licensing schemes, that essentially was the focus from the council on that. Alongside that, there's been some concerns for a number of years again on empty homes and bringing them back into use as a way of, one, the streetscape and how that looks by having empty houses for a long period of time. And also there was a financial incentive to bring more homes back into use in relation to how the council does new homes bonus, gets a new homes bonus calculation as part of its annual settlement with government. And that project again has been working for a couple of years. We've got an ongoing focus and challenge in relation to tackling homelessness, both in terms of visible homelessness through bus sleepers, particularly in the town of Wisbech, and also generally people who need help to secure accommodation where they're threatened with homelessness, and working to the requirements of the Homelessness Reduction Act with a focus on prevention. And then in terms of the community side, we've had since the late Councillor Cotterill set up the Golden Age Fairs and the Golden Age programme. That's been a tremendously successful programme, which Councillor Clark is now lead portfolio holder for. And again, that is being reinvigorated after obviously a hiatus for the pandemic. Phil, do you want to come in on?
Every time, sorry, my apologies. We're looking to collaborate with other local activity providers to use our local open spaces to increase the number of people being more active, to reduce health inequalities. On top of that, obviously, we provide 4 leisure centres within the district that are managed by Freedom Leisure, but we're very much working in partnership with Freedom to deliver opportunities for people to become more active and have education about being more active. And then finally, I think we have Active Fenland, which is our small sports development unit. We have 1 paid employee and 2 others that are funded externally. And they're doing activity out and about in various different locations to give people affordable physical activity opportunities and education close to where they live.
And then lastly, the 2 further key initiatives have been set by Cabinet again through Councillor Clark's portfolio holder is around health and wellbeing, and clearly obviously the focus has been dominated by the pandemic for the last couple of years, but we're coming out of that now, and then it's an opportunity to look at how a district council services and how it can impact on the wider determinants of health, with an opportunity with the new, very new, launched from July, the integrated care system, new health structures, and how we can influence that for the benefit of residents. And then lastly, you know, always has been a fantastic event, has been the Pride in Fenland Awards, to recognise those sterling volunteers in the community who give up their time to help others. And again, obviously in the last couple of years, that's been a real focus around supporting people during the COVID pandemic.
Can I ask Councillor Clark, Golden Age fairs, you know, you've had 2 at Whittlesey now in the last couple of years, and they've been in conjunction with a big bash. Do the numbers actually reflect greater attendance if you have another function running alongside, rather than just have a standalone Golden Age fair?
Yes, it does actually, and also to reiterate, we do get a lot of other age groups come through as well, not just Golden Age. You know, we haven't had a lot of, but yeah, no, it seems to get the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, would that be a policy in future, perhaps, to link up the Golden Age fair with another event rather than?
That's what we're looking at. We have got some events coming up in towns, but not joined with anything at the moment. But we, in our meetings, we do discuss on looking on something.
Yeah.
On something. Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, okay. Councillor Scanlon. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dan. The report on the housing thing is quite comprehensive. One of the questions that was asked at the pre-meet is how many suppliers of social housing are there in Fenland? We know of Clarion and we know of Axiom, but are there any smaller ones? What are their stock of houses? And what is the criteria for renting those houses out in terms of what the public need to do to acquire themselves one of these properties?
Thanks for that question, Councillor Scanlon. Yes, so yeah, we've got a number of what's called registered providers that work in Fenland. You've obviously got the big one, which is the former housing council housing stock, which is Clarion. And they are the vast majority of the homes available, but there's a plethora of other registered providers that work, and we try and encourage them to work in Fenland, because we still got the target to meet housing needs, and we've got a lot of people on the council's home link housing register, which, although managed through Clarion, is actually a statutory function of this district council to discharge. So the other main, there's 4 or 5 main other providers, so that will be, off the top of my head, Accent, Longhurst, you've got Cross Keys, you've got CHS Group, that's to name but a few. But what I can do is, as an action, I can send you a link which provides you a list of all the providers that are in Fenland, and also the last report they've had from, because just like you have perhaps an Ofsted inspection for education, a CQC inspection for care homes, they get, they're regulated all by what's called the social housing regulator, and that regulator does an assessment on them, and you'll also see the link to the latest assessment. I will caution though, the data in terms of the numbers was last done, I think, at 2020. So there's a little bit of play, but we haven't had that many new affordable homes in the last 2 years. We've had some, but it gives you a good flavour, Councillor Miss Scanlon, to what's available in Fenland. So I'll send that link as an action.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. But I think this would be useful information to go to all councillors, so that, you know, people that don't sit on this committee are still aware of what action's being taken throughout the council, and it would be advantageous to their parishioners that they've got the information. But thank you.
More than happy to send it as an all-member note if that's what members would like to see.
Councillor Wicks, please.
On the same vein as Housing Association, while we have a contact number for Clarion for action as councillors, can we have contact details for all the other ones, just in case we get approached by one of our constituents and they are in an alternative housing association? That's my first point.
Yeah, I haven't got that so readily to hand, Councillor Wicks, but of course I can try and get somebody to come up with a contact for each one, so that you've got a list, particularly the main ones, if I might say. But what I would encourage you to do is to say to any resident that complains about a registered provider, they all have to have a formal complaints procedure, just like Fenland District Council do. They're all regulated by an ombudsman, just as we are as well. And as I've just said, they're all regulated by the social housing regulator. So I would really encourage you, have they exhausted the complaints procedure in terms of what they, and then also I would encourage you to just tip me the wink as well that there's an issue of that particular landlord, because I can often make a route through alongside the formal route that we're on side if I know a particular officer at a particular registered provider. But yeah, that's what I would encourage, is to always say to that resident, have you probably raised it? If you don't know how to do it, then fair enough. You know, we need to set that. But I will also, as an action, try and get you the headlines, because it's probably something useful I could do with, actually. So I will pick that up as well and make sure we build that list.
My next question is relating to the homeless numbers and the relevance against the military covenant, and the figures there, if we have any.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Wicks. I do, because after there was a question at full council last week, and in response to that, we did do some inquiries, and if you just bear with me. So on the, I mentioned earlier, the home link register. As at the full council date, there was 1,576 live Fenland applicants wanting an affordable home to live in. I had 1,576 households. 25 had a declared link to the military. So of that, and if you look at the policy, there is a special section in terms of their prioritisation within the policy of the allocations policy, which was, I think, last approved in 2021, not that long ago, if my memory serves me right.
Very useful figures there. Where I was thinking for was street sleepers as well, because that was part and parcel of your report.
That's a very good question, Councillor Wicks. So what I can do is ask the outreach team to ascertain of the rough sleepers we've had. I'll see if they can perhaps go back for the last 12 months or so. Would that be okay, Councillor Wicks? See how many of them have a military background.
It's just so that as part of should we say, ongoing work, then that we can activate the welfare organisations that are applicable to the military to help resolve the issues.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And to reassure you, we do, as soon as we know there is a military, and in terms of the military covenant, I know you're aware, Councillor Wicks, but if you've had one day in, or your household that's been involved for one day with the military, that means it triggers the military covenant support. And so the team are well aware, because particularly in homelessness, we tap into that support network, because often that can help towards the prevention of homelessness and an opportunity that might not be arising if they didn't have a military background.
My next question is relating to, and I believe we brought it up, the actual contact details for Jamie Lee for community events and establishing a link there.
What's the question, please?
Basically, we asked for the contact details for Jamie Lee to be forwarded to us, and I cannot remember seeing anything of that.
Yeah, Jamie Lee's on our email system, so you've got access to her through that. Is that okay?
Thank you. I wasn't aware.
Councillor Hay, thank you.
I would like to go back to social housing. It would be interesting to know of the other social housing providers exactly how many houses each one of them provide and in which areas. But also, we all know what services Clarion provide to their tenants. It would also be interested, do these other housing providers provide extra services for the disabled and elderly who currently need support?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. So, yeah, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I'll send a link, and then from that, I would encourage you to all have a go at the link and see what's in there, what provision is in there. I think within any particular ward that you live in, that you're in your constituency, you'll be aware, I would think, of where there's the older person's accommodation, for example, and types of accommodation like that. But I think there may be such a breakdown. I can't remember, so forgive me in terms of that. In fact, forget me now. I'll try and find a link while I'm on with this meeting. But in terms of services, all the registered providers generally offer, I would say, the similar services to what you're aware that Clarion would offer. So if you've got a concern or welfare concern or anything like that, I'd encourage you to make that contact to that particular organisation. Generally, the contact details are straight available on a website. Make that call through and emphasise your role as a councillor, and your constituents come to you, and then from that you should get the service. And if you don't, that's where I like to know, because obviously we can take that up in the more general housing discussions that we have with registered providers. But generally they are pretty good at getting back in terms of when there's particularly concerns on welfare and things like that.
Can I just come back on that? Because Clarion, we know, come before us usually once a year. So we have some oversight of what's going on there. And we have some input where we've heard from residents. With these other housing providers, we seem to have no input and no oversight. Is there any way that some of the bigger ones could be invited to come before us, basically just to give us a feeling of what they do?
I'm not sure is the honest answer to that, because obviously they don't have a requirement to come, but under their social responsibility, I would hope that they might want to come along to a overview and scrutiny. So it might be, can you leave that as an action for me? Because what I can do is perhaps take, when you see the list, it's quite obvious we've got 4 or 5 of the larger ones. And I might be able to invite them on for a general come in, and you can have a chat with them at a particular meeting in the future. Whether I can corral them together at the same time on the same day, it might be handy. But as you see, if you look at the profile, you can see that I think you're talking the residual sort of 10% of total stock is what we're talking about. It's quite a big number. I mean, Accent, I know, I'm pretty sure I've got over 500 properties in Fenland area as a particular example. They're the second biggest, I think, after Clarion. So I'm not sure, because they can say no, they don't have to, there's no account, but I think they might want to come along. It's just whether I can give it a go.
Thank you for that. I mean, so I did realise that there is no compulsion on their part to come before us, but in the interest of transparency, I think it could be good publicity for them to show that they're working with the local authority to ensure the best outcomes for their tenants.
I think Councillor Bowden might want to come in here.
Thank you. Just maybe of assistance, Chairman. I just wonder whether, rather than just looking for all of the providers of affordable housing, and there are quite a lot of them, whether you may wish to focus more on individual elements. For example, if you were interested in affordable right to buy, asking Longhurst and the other one, Rent Plus, to come along, would maybe be slightly more focused than just a scattergun approach. I don't know what Dan has to say about that.
I think you've raised a really good point, actually, because it depends what area of business, because obviously if it's development, that's one area, that's one team. And again, that might be, although you might have big stock numbers of certain RPs that are currently in Fenland, some might not be active now for new development, for example. There's some new providers that you might want to bring in for that, who are more active in Fenland, looking to build in Fenland at the minute. If it's on management and how they treat their tenants and the services that they provide, that's a different group of people. And we'll go back probably to the numbers list, because obviously that's then you want to go for the numbers that are in Fenland, the number of properties they've got.
Can I just ask, going back to open spaces, is it the policy that open spaces will be kept just as open spaces and not for development in the future of any kind?
It depends on which open space. So the Manor Field at Whittlesea is protected as a fields in trust field, but other spaces aren't. You know, you could have a small open space the size of these desks that may be developable, and you may have other sites that are, you know, huge parks that are protected. So some smaller open spaces, we are considering whether there's any opportunity to sell those on.
When you say sell them off for development?
To a third party. Yeah,
it's a bit confusing. I understood that the designation of open spaces was for the benefit of the public for leisure activities. But what you're saying now is that some of these may well be in the future sold off for other purposes.
The council looks after lots and lots of open spaces. So an open space could be the grass in front of your house prior to the road. So we cut that, and it's a separate small package on our mapping system. And then you've got something like West End Park or Wisbeach Park that are vast, aren't they? You know, so we do have packets of land that are maintained as open space. The grass is cut, but really they're not a formal open space like a park with a play area, that sort of thing. So it's difficult to answer your question with any certainty, because there are so many different packets of land out there that the council owns and cuts the grass on.
I'm thinking of a particular piece of land in Whittlesea that is designated open space. In fact, it's been padlocked off for the last 5 years. And that doesn't, to me, give access to the public to use it for what it's intended. I just wonder whether, in fact, that was intended to be eyed off for development in the future.
Not to my knowledge, we've not looked at Whittlesea areas yet. If you send me details of the patch of land itself, I can look into it.
What came out today, interestingly, was the statistics for CAB, which I think all our members have had a look at. Is it possible in future to break it down into market town areas and villages, as opposed to just having a blanket Fenland approach? Because although figures are quite impressive, it doesn't really give a true picture of where the action is actually taking place.
I'm sure I can get that for you. Yeah, so can you leave that as an action for me, councillor Mexter?
It would be interesting to know what each of the town councils and indeed parish councils are giving in the way of support to the CAB. Because I know within Chatteris there has been complaints in the past that we are not getting a very good service from the CAB. Now that may be because we contribute a lot less than the likes of, say, Whittlesea. So it would be interesting if we could have collated what each of the individual towns and parishes are doing.
I know that my parish council and some other parish councils that I attend in my ward do contribute to CAB. I had a discussion on the way over here actually, because they used to come out to the rural areas and do a surgery, but they'd sit there for 2 hours and possibly not get anybody. And I know now that we are using them for golden age fairs. They're going to come along to give advice now at golden age fairs as well. So hopefully that will sort of help. But I know we've had them come to the village halls in several rural locations and they've sat there and no one has come. But I do know parish councils do give money to them, but parish councils that I attend anyway.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so as members were aware, we have a service level funding agreement with the Citizens Advice Bureau. So their service helps meet services, and we focus, you know, on council debt recovery, homelessness prevention, big hitting services for Fenland District Council. But as you can see with the summary report that you've got, that there's many other huge wider aspects of support that they give around welfare. So just by way of history, during the austerity period, the council did a consultation to reduce the funding that it gave over a 3-year period. I think from memory it was £9,000 per year over 3 years, and we did a process of consultation on that with the Citizens Advice Bureau at that time. And then as part of the mitigation, obviously they had to look at what they could do to adjust the service around there. But what we ensured from those negotiations that there remained a district-wide accessible service, and that's what they've focused on doing, recognising that a lot of it can be over the phone, but nevertheless, that's what is still on offer. But what I will get for you is that breakdown per town and village, hopefully, from going back to Citizen Advice. I'll also ask them about what funding they're getting from other sources for Fenland area work, if that's all right.
Councillor Scanlon and then Councillor Hay. Is that all right?
Thank you very much. On the rural CAM CAB, I've had conversations with Nick from the CAB fairly recently, and he is grateful for all the help he receives. Some of the towns don't quite contribute as much as the other towns, and he praised the commitment from Whittlesea with the officer being cited in the council offices and the contributions we make to it. They would like to see more cooperation with the towns and with the council, and going forward they would like to see an enhanced service within Fenland to mitigate the problems. And the report is good, but as you quite rightly say, it doesn't itemize the towns or villages of what they do. We in fact in Whittlesea do get an itemized report. Now it would be prudent to say, well, can you do that for them? You can do it for all of us. So getting that kind of report back to all the towns and to the councillors, I think will be an advantage. I've supported the CAB long before it became the Rural CAM CAB, and will continue to do so. So I think going forward, I think they're providing a vital service for Fenland at the moment for everybody. And I don't think it's, you know, the figures here absolutely echo that for everyone to see. And I think it's good going forward.
Yeah, my apologies, because I've just looked at this, the report data, and there is another document saying Fenland issued by ward. So I will be sending that to you all.
Well, all I would ask is if you're going to send that out, can you send it out to all councillors? So those that cover parishes can also take it to their parish councils.
Again, would you like me to send both documents, the one you've just got now and the by ward, and then everybody can have a look at it and look at the geographical spread?
Well, thank you very much for all this. Sorry, Sam.
I see you want to know a bit more about Active Fenland. Obviously, what it says, keeping people active in Fenland, but I just want to comment. We organised a tea dance at the Queen Mary Centre a week ago, 2 weeks ago. That was organised by Active Fenland, and it was the Hot Friday, one of the first hot days. And it was absolutely brilliant. There was a lot of people attended, and people from Whittlesea came over to the tea dance at Wisbech. And there was even people there from Downham Market. And so that's the sort of thing that Active Fenland do. And I know that was a success, and they're now going to put one on in other towns. And also the Ramblers walks and things, you know, there is a lot, they do a lot, and they are a good team, I have to say. They're a very encouraging team.
Councillor Purser, followed by Councillor Wicks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the question of CAB, as we were saying earlier on, it's can be a very, very vital piece of tool there. I'm led to believe, I mean, I've never had to use it myself, but because they said there were so few people use it at March, the March office closed down, and they said they had purely an hour a week in March library, and they said that was closed down, and they could only use the one in Wisbech. Is that correct, or is it now just by appointment only, or how does it actually work like that? And so for some people, it could actually be very, very vital to actually see these people. Thank you much.
Yeah, a good question. Essentially, due, as I mentioned about the changes, they had a reduction from the grant from Fenland District Council over a 3-year period. And as part of that adjustment, they reduced the amount of time that they spent in other towns and kept their base, their core base in Wisbech as a physical presence, but ensuring that was that service available across the 4 districts. However, I'm aware, and Councillor Scanlon's given an example, that they offer then additional services based on funding that receive elsewhere. For example, in that case, it's from Whittlesea Town Council, which leads to a different, and I think they've got other services as well. But I will get the detail of that as part of the actions from this meeting.
Oh, yeah, come back on that, yeah. And one of the reasons I actually bring it up is because obviously we had at March Town Council, we had a thing that said, well, we're not going to fund it as much as we used to because we don't actually have the facilities. Now, what was actually brought up to us by all constituents was the fact that some people, hadn't got the confidence to phone these people up and sort of talk over the phone about it. But at the same time, they said, oh, well, you can still use it, it's down Wisbech. And I said, yeah, but we've just been made redundant, we're out of work, so we haven't got the funds to actually even get on the bus to actually go to Wisbech to do it. So they actually felt they were not shut out, but a loss to actually use the service.
I think I completely get that, Councillor Purser. It's a really good thought in terms of that. So in those circumstances where people hear of those cases, I would encourage them to look for some form of advocate that can help support them in that. So if it's through yourself, so if you hear of somebody, then contact the council, and we can contact CAB directly and sort of say, how can you help this particular customer? We've got an issue here in terms of their confidence of being able to come forward without having a face-to-face. We can look at solutions around that. That's what I encourage there.
Thank you. The CAB's use the facilities in Whittlesea and they use facilities in other towns. As Councillor Percy has just said, March doesn't have any facilities. Would it be prudent in the interim to offer some facilities here at Fenland Hall? We've got enough offices, and do it on an appointment base only, so that the people can come here on an appointment base, have their problems dealt with or issues dealt with, to deal with, you know, that going forward.
I'm not sure is the honest answer to that, in terms of it sounds like a really good idea and something to consider. I think the first thing is it would need some funding from, say, March Town Council wanted to do that and they didn't have the facilities themselves to offer a physical presence. They could then contact the council as part of that and say, would you be able to consider it? And then bear with us. I think we need to then consider how we can manage that against, you know, our risk assessments, everything we do as a council linked to people, external organisations coming into the council. I'm not saying we can't do it, we just need to look into it if that's something that March Town Council want to consider.
Well, again, I'm afraid I can't sort of speak for March Town Council. As I say, yes, we'll definitely fund it. The whole council.
So if you want to take that back, councilperson, and see if there is interest in an enhanced service like what's happening with Whittlesea. I mean, you'll have a service level agreement that I'm sure Whittlesea have discussed with. So whether you want to speak with Councillor Miss Scanlon and Nick, what they've been doing,
Nice,
take that over to March Town Council, see if they wish to fund it. And then at that point, if you want to contact, if you can't think of anywhere yourselves in terms of it and you think this will be then we can consider it. I just at this stage I can't say as yet. We need to look at it at that point.
So one of our actual councillors who uses experience as an ex-police officer and doing extended law, he didn't have a degree afterwards when he retired, what have you. He actually used that experience as a CAB officer to actually do that, which was actually quite useful. And we actually sort of spoke to him during the town council meeting, and he said, well, I'm now, although a volunteer, I haven't got anywhere to go since it's all been closed down, which is how he actually found out the whole thing had been closed down.
Councillor Wicks, please.
If I may, the golden age, in days gone by, there was an engagement, as I understand it, from local health organisations, surgeries. As they have now moved to having social prescribers as part of those surgeries, would they not be a valuable addition to the attendees at a Golden Age fair?
They would. I can look into that at our next meeting.
Question for Dan actually here. All right, okay, that's right. We've had an informal conversation about this, but I'd like to bring it into this forum as a more formal thing. Whittlesea Emergency Food Aid, the food bank in Whittlesea. We're still having desperate problems and actually relocating. And I know the problems are not strictly yours, they're problems at Cambridge County Council level, but I really would like some support in actually pushing that particular project along. It's now 8 months since we agreed with Cambridge County Council to relocate to the rear of the Whittlesea Library. The paper was all signed off in December by myself. And you'll appreciate with the economic situation at the moment, we're actually bursting at the seams where we are at the moment, which is a temporary building in the back of the Christian Church car park, which has already been broken into twice. I really need your help to push that along, Dan. Thank you.
Happy to see what I can do to assist in that.
We can talk again if you like outside the meeting. I think you know the issues. Yeah. Thank you very much all for your attendance today. The actual report is noted, and thank you for all the hard work that's been put into that. And we look forward to further progress in the coming year. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, the draft overview and scrutiny annual report for the year 2021-22, which also takes a forward look at the programme of work and challenges in 2022-23. All members of the committee have had the report. I hope you've had time to digest the contents of it. And if there are any comments on that report or amendments you wish to make to it, I will take them now. Well, I'll now introduce Amy. I think you'd like to make some comments.
Yeah, well, obviously, of all the reports that Overview and Scrutiny receive, this will be one that's the most familiar to you, because it clearly sets out the hard work that has taken place over the last year in ensuring that the council is properly scrutinising the services and that it provides and the different activities within all of the teams. So in many ways, I'm not surprised there aren't very many questions, but it's just making sure that you feel that the report adequately captures everything that has taken place this year and aspirations for the next year, which of course include the task and finish group that has been set up and will become active in the next couple of weeks. But to be honest, there's not a great deal I can add to what's already in there. As is standard, the report sets out quite a lot of background about the function of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and how it came about by law, and then obviously the latter part sets out how that's been interpreted within the context of Fenland. So there's not much more I can add to that, unless anyone has questions or anything to add.
Councillor Scanlon, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The comments I have to make are that I'm very impressed by the comprehensive report that has been produced, and it's all credit to the officers and yourself, Amy, for producing a very, very comprehensive report that's before us today, and I would support this wholeheartedly.
Councillor Scanlon.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Amy as monitoring officer and members of the member services team for all the invaluable advice they've given us over the year.
Mr. Chairman, that's a proposition.
Yes,
second that.
I think those sentiments were echoed in the report anyway, in my forward, and thank you very much to all members of the committee for their contribution. Would the leader like to come in at all here on this one? Any comment on the report, if you've had a chance to look at it, leader?
Well, thank you, Chairman. The report, of course, is yours and your committees, and it's certainly not for me to try to influence it, but it is a good reflection on the breadth of work that this committee has done over the course of the previous year, which I think is impressive, especially given the difficulties we've had over the last 2 years in terms of meetings and in terms of the extra priorities that so many people have had to do with COVID. One point was mentioned in that report which did strike me, and I'll mention it now, and that is the comment was made within the report that all meetings are held in public. And I also am aware that you are interested in greater scrutiny of the investment board and what the investment board is doing. And I just put it to you that you may care to consider whether you need to explore the possibility of meetings which may not be in public, depending upon what you want to do with the investment board and what is appropriate. I'm not insisting on it by any means. I'm merely saying that the policy which you've put in there may be one you might care to reconsider in certain circumstances, depending upon what you want to do.
I think we asked for an interim report probably in 6 months' time, more as a reassurance. I don't think any information we'll get in 6 months' time will be much different from what we've got now. But it was really a reassurance that things were ticking along as they should be. And I did make mention that I'm very happy as an observer on behalf of Overview and Scrutiny of the investment board and also Fenland Future Trading. I'm very happy with the legalities of it. I just think that if the public are kept informed as best they can, and a lot of it is confidential, then there is the assurance there that you go in the correct manner. So that was the reason for the request for the interim report.
Yeah, given that there were a number of outstanding actions by Anglian Water, I don't see any entry for Anglian Water on here. And I think given the questions that have been asked and still may be outstanding, I have to ask why haven't they have been included in the work programme?
I think Amy will answer that one for you. Thank you.
So since our pre-meeting, we've been in contact with Anglian Water, and we also established that they had provided some information to us, but obviously due to changes in personnel, we haven't picked that up. So it's been updated in the action plan, but there is still one further outstanding question, which in fairness to them, they may not have had it put to them in precisely the terms it's now been refined to. So we'll continue to work with them to update that. And also I've invited Anglian Water to come back in, I think, May next year, and they've accepted that. So I just need to add it to the forward plan. But that occurred over the course of the last week. So since our pre-meeting, we've been back to them and said, would you come again? And they've said yes, and we've sorted it out for May, so that it would leave enough time between the last time they came and the next update. But if you feel it needs to be sooner, we can look at that. But it's good to sort of leave enough time for new matters to be dealt with.
And my point there is, if we're going for May, we're going to a new tenure of council, and there are a number of members who could be not re-elected, who can't put their points on these ongoing matters.
Do you want to keep it under review then, and then perhaps at the start of the year we can look to see if we've amassed enough sort of thoughts and questions on what we might like to ask them and bring that forward, because the main thing is to make sure that when they do come that we can get enough of a session with them that doesn't go over the things that we discussed before, that they've already answered. It's about proximity, but I do take your point. So I think as part of our continual review of the forward plan, we can certainly keep that under monitoring.
I think that would be a very good idea, because we don't know what this winter has got to come and what the impacts that could be, not only on Anglian Water, but other, shall I put it, as water management agencies that should be scrutinised a little bit closer.
Yeah, I would remind members that Anglian Water are not obliged statutory-wise to come before us, but we do have a report with them, and we will pursue those questions. Thank you.
It's a typo thing. We all know that Councillor Lynn has stood down from his portfolio holder position, but he is still listed on the portfolio holders to be replaced by Councillor Count. So can we have those altered so it reads correct? Anyone reading it says who the councillor is, not who it was. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Barrett, thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Chairman. Just a request to make, and this comes as a result of Councillor Hoy telling me that she only had a week's notice of her invitation to come to this meeting, and it was too late to get it into her diary. Is it possible, when working out your future programme, that you could fix specific dates for specific items, and if you are able to, then to advise the portfolio holders concerned many months in advance rather than very shortly in advance that their attendance may be required on a specific date to make it more likely that they turn up. Councillor Booth has complained in the past that not enough portfolio holders do turn up to ONS when they should. It would really help if a greater amount of notice were given, if it's possible to do so. Thank you, Chair.
I think that's a good suggestion. So in light of the comments that we'd received from Councillor Hoy, Member Services and I have discussed this, and what we have got obviously in the forward plan is a list of all the different types of report that are coming forward, so we can identify the portfolio holder from that. So I have asked that Member Services email the portfolio holders so that that's in their diaries, and obviously the date of ONS throughout the year is in the calendar that goes out as well. So we're going to do that, definitely, yes.
Yes, Councillor Wicks, thank you.
My question is going to be in relation to an action in October, the update by the CPCA Growth Services. Given the report that we had last year, which was very general for the whole of Cambridge and not focused on Fenland, can we ask that we do get the salient detail of their activities within Fenland?
Yeah, I think that can be taken into consideration, and the questions, yeah, put together in advance. Thank you.